Hello everyone, welcome to the new video on this channel. This is a speed build of a farmhouse, or if you want you can call it a homestead, and as you can see I am staying in The Sims 2, so this is The Sims 2 speed build. For a fair amount of time I wanted to build a farm, and although we don't have that many items in The Sims 2 which can fit to the farm or homestead, I think that you can still play around and build quite a nice lot. I want to disclose that I don't play with any mods or any custom content, and that's the reason why I'm quite limited, but I hope that I did quite a good job, but it's up to you to decide. This is quite a big lot and quite a big build. And when I make any speed build videos, I always think about any family which would live there, so I create a little story in my head. It always helps me to imagine how I want to build the house much better if I know who's gonna live there, and I recommend that to everybody who is struggling with any builds. Always imagine which family will live there if you are building without having the family already. Also, if you are new to this channel, welcome here. My name is Lucy. I like to do a lot of The Sims content on my channel, but I also play other games and I also stream on Twitch every evening. I am a variety streamer and my YouTube channel is now related to The Sims, but you can find some older videos which are survival related, for example, and some other games, because I am a big fan of any kind of video games. So if you are enjoying video games and if you are especially The Sims enthusiast, please consider to subscribe to my channel. Thank you if you will do. When I was talking about the family which I imagined for this house, I had in my head parents with 2 kids, probably kids which are quite young. That is a bit tricky in The Sims 2 because we don't have that many life stages, but yeah, I was imagining kids. So we will have a kids room in the build, and obviously a bedroom for parents. I also wanted like a guest room or a study, and ideally combined. So you will see in a little bit how the floor plan for this house looks like. But as you can see, it's quite unusual, but I am focusing on the outside right now, and I'm making an orchard here. There's not a big variety of the fruit trees, but I was just going with what I have. And sadly, compared to the later Sims games, there are no animals here that you could have and eventually pretend that they are farm animals. Obviously you can have cats and dogs, and you can have birds and I think hamster, but there are no cows, chickens or other farm animals, so I had to stick with crop plots and orchards. And I also incorporated the greenhouse that you can see in the footage. For a fair amount of time I wasn't sure if I want to include a little pond, but at the end I was just thinking, you know what, why not? I'm gonna put the pond and I'm gonna put a willow next to it. I'm currently playing with the depth of this pond because I like when things look natural, and normally you would have different depth for the ponds and any kind of water areas, so that was a bit tricky, but I made it work. And also I did a little bit of terrain change around, because obviously when you have a water somewhere you can imagine that you will have like muddy edges. At this point in my head I was thinking about the floor plan and the layout of the house. I didn't think about it much ahead, so I am adding another entrance which leads closer to this crop plot, and in this area I'm gonna also have compost bins, which currently are by that little barn which is converted to a garage. I don't know how about you, but I always imagine that this kind of side entrance will be always in the kitchen. So here I'm playing around a little bit and I wasn't so sure how wide I want the rooms, but at the end it is the width of 5 squares. And I am trying to make practical builds, so the reason why this side entrance is in the kitchen is when you are working with the food and you have some scraps. I was just thinking that if you have a bin there and you want to go to the compost bin, you want the shortest route possible. So that's the reason why the side entrance is in the kitchen. So the ground floor of this farm or this farmhouse is kitchen, dining room, then there's this hallway, a bathroom, tiny guest room, which will be a study as well, bedroom, and living room. I wasn't really sure which kind of stairs I want to include in this build, but then I decided to go for this spiral staircase, and we are moving upstairs. And you can see that I'm dividing this big room, which I imagine was a loft before, to two separate rooms and a bathroom. The bathroom is tiny, but it will have all the essentials. I also said two separate rooms, but only one will be the kids' bedroom, and the second room I will use as a storage, so that will be still the kind of loft area where you will put all of your belongings that you don't need all around the year. And we all probably have some kind of storage like that in our homes. Now I am adding different windows to the rooms, but I also didn't want too many of them. Again, I'm trying to be practical, so for example, windows in the kitchen are always quite a struggle because I don't want to interfere with the kitchen counters. And talking about the kitchen, we are moving to furnish the kitchen in this house. As I said before, this is the farmhouse or a homestead, so I was going for the country look, and there is entire collection of the country kitchen or the entire country build, which is quite a nice feature in The Sims 2, and we know that probably from the other Sims games you can filter the items based on the collections. So in The Sims 2 we already had this feature, and I'm using the items which are in the collection for the country kitchen here. You can see me opening the cheat console too, and if you don't know which cheats you can use when you're building in The Sims 2, I have the entire video which explains useful cheats and tips and tricks for better building. I will link that to the description below, and I will also put it to the card in the video, so check that out if you want to know how you can freely move objects, or almost completely freely move the objects in The Sims 2. It's still not as advanced as building in The Sims 4, and here are some limitations, but it makes you to do better builds and better homes, which are more cluttered, for example, because these building cheats will allow you to place more objects at the same slots and just to move them off the grid. Through the entire build you can see me playing around with quite a lot of items, and this particular kitchen I wanted to have quite big, and I wanted to have enough of room on the top of the counters. What is one thing which I really miss in The Sims 2 is the cupboards, which are the hanging cupboards. We don't really have many of them. For this country kitchen we do have one kind of matching, but it has only one type of the look, and it doesn't look nice when you have too many of them. So what I do in a lot of my builds for The Sims 2, you couldn't really see that because I only did the speed build for one build on this channel so far, but I am using the surfaces like shelves around the wall to make it look more like a storage area. I feel in general that decorating in The Sims 2 is quite limited because there are not many items that you could put on the wall and they would not look ridiculous. There are many paintings which are almost looking like a children paintings, or not children paintings on its own, but the paintings that you would hang in the kids' room. So it's quite tricky to actually clutter or decorate the house nicely in certain style if you don't play with any custom content. As I said before, I play my game vanilla, so it is a challenge every single time when I build something, especially because I'm spoiled from The Sims 4. And no matter how much I have this soft spot in my heart for The Sims 2 and The Sims 3, I have to admit that I think that building in The Sims 4 is obviously the best how to build, and it's not a surprise because it's the newest game. However, I'm saying the newest, but it's already more than 10 years old. But yeah, at the end of the day, The Sims 2 is still holding up to its standards, and I think that the main reason why people do play The Sims 2 is not that much of a building or decorating, but it's more of the gameplay, which in The Sims 2 is amazing, and the little details in the game make this game so great even after that many years that The Sims 2 was released. Here, I have to admit, I did struggle quite a lot because I wanted to decorate this corner, and in general, if you will walk into the house, I imagine that you will have some kind of area where you remove your shoes if you are removing the shoes when you enter the house. So normally, because I'm from Europe, you would have like a place where you can remove the coat and where you can take your shoes off and store them. There are no such items like that apart from like a coat rack, and I was looking for it for so long, and I swear, I don't know if you feel the same, but I am usually looking for a certain item, especially in The Sims, where there's no like filter system apart from those collections. And unless you remember exactly the category where they are, and even the slot where they will be, I have this kind of blindness where I'm just looking at the item and I just can't find it at the particular moment that I'm looking for it. So for a while I was staring into that corner and I was just thinking about, I know there's the cloth or hanging rack for the clothes, and I just can't find it. And I did find it eventually. A little bit later you will see that. That's also what I do through the entire build, and it's not just a thing or a specific thing for The Sims 2. I do this a lot. I'm a jumpy builder, so when I see the item that I just stumble upon in the menu or the inventory or just like the build by menu, I will go to that room and place it there, even when I'm focusing on something else. So I apologize if it distracts you when I'm moving between the rooms, but sometimes I just find item randomly that I wanted in some other room. And that's the reason why I'm gonna go between the rooms and place the item somewhere else, even if I'm working on the living room, for example. Just in case that you're not familiar with the cheat console in this game, that I'm opening quite a lot and activating and deactivating the cheats. You can see that the cheat console is opening quite a lot in this video, and I'm doing that because a lot of the time I need to take the item off the grid so it's not snapping to the grid, but on the other time I want to have the item snapping to the slot. And because you cannot just hold Alt down like you would do it in The Sims 4 to freely move the item, I have to do it individually for every single thing, basically, if I want that thing to move freely, and then I am placing something else which I want to put into the slot. You don't have to deactivate it after every single use, you can leave it active, but for certain items it's necessary to put them to the slots, at least for me. For example, you could see that the lighting on the truck is a little bit off, so that will be fixed if you deactivate the free move and you will just slot it into the slots and then it looks normal. Here I was missing something on this wall. To my liking, it was too empty, so I decided to put a shelf there with the candle and with some pictures. And I was just thinking those are pictures of their loved ones which are not anymore with them. So this is a place where they can think about them, and it's like a little memorial wall with a candle which is lit all the time. Now we moved to the bedroom, which I wanted to keep quite simple. I imagine that if you have a homestead or a farm, you will spend not that much time in the bedroom in general. So this area is literally just for sleeping only. I included this little vanity mirror, and in my head it wasn't only for the mom, but I was thinking that if they have a daughter, she would sneak into the bedroom and she would just try on some makeup. Now I am again decorating a little bit this bedroom, and again, something which annoys me a little bit is placing rugs into bedrooms, because you can't really place them well unless you want to deal with that weird lighting. So I did place it there. It's not central where I would want it, but I just have to accept that we have some limitations in this build and in this game. I'm placing ceiling light. That's sometimes something that I forget, and you may know it. Or I don't forget it completely, but I place it quite late. We also moved to the guest room, which is very tiny, and it's quite odd shape, but it's very practical. So I made this tiny little nook for the dresser on the left side, and now I'm placing the computer there because I was thinking that if they are farmers, they will still need to order some supplies and maybe to do their accountancy on the computer. They are doing that themselves, so they need a little bit of modern technology. Also, the desk which is there, I will have to rotate a little bit later because it was during my playtest causing issues because the girl who was playing on it could not get out of that space. So I did rotate that and I placed that under that picture which was on the wall. Now I am doing the bathroom, which again is having quite a lot of country vibe. One thing that I would do different next time is that I would probably not include the kitchen counter in the bathroom. Normally I do it quite a lot in my Sims 4 videos, but in here it caused that my Sims were going to prepare food in the bathroom, which was definitely not intended. So either I'll place some clutter on it, or I would just not include it at all. You can see that I also used quite funky tiles in that bathroom. And where else should I use it than in the country style of farm or the house? Here I'm moving upstairs, and first I'm doing the smallest room here, which is the bathroom. And as I said before, it has all the essentials that your Sims will need. And it's quite cute. I feel like the green color fits nicely to the farmhouse. Lately I feel like I'm including quite a lot of mint color in a lot of my builds, and not just in builds, but also in my real life. I don't know what it is, but I think that mint color is just one of the nicest colors in general. But let me talk about the layout of this upstairs area. As I said before, I divided this big room, which used to be loft, into 2 rooms. I have this landing, which has a little bit of activity here in the form of chess. And I will have a little couch there too, so they can just lounge and hang around, especially kids, because this entire area upstairs is more likely to be theirs. And I was also thinking maybe later, when the kids grow up a little bit, I would convert that retained loft area into another bedroom. But for now, they are sharing the bedroom together. This place that I'm working on is that dedicated place in the loft where there's a lot of storage area and a lot of activity and skills items. You can see that there's a painting easel, and we have also the pottery wheel. We have a place where your Sims can create toys, and I have a sewing machine in this room too. And although you could almost call it an activity room, I am cluttering that right now so it will look a little bit more like a loft where they can also come and do these activities. I was imagining that this place will be like any other storages, so there's gonna be quite a lot of clutter around, maybe some Christmas decorations, and here we have some toys and just everything what you couldn't fit anywhere else in the build. And as I said before, I think that everybody has a dedicated place. If it's not the entire room, if you live, for example, in an apartment, at least it's gonna be a dedicated corner where you probably store the items that you don't use every day. We are finished with the loft and we moved to the kids' bedroom. Originally, I thought that this family would have only one child, but at the end I changed my mind and I wanted to have 2 kids here. So one side of the room is gonna be the girls' kind of area, and the other side will be the boys' one. I know that everything looks quite yellow here, or yellow and orange, but don't worry, I will break that down a bit once that area for the boy will be decorated too. I think it's quite important to stay realistic and not everything is matching, or at least not in my childhood home everything was matching, and I think it's quite important to have different colors to encourage the creativity of children. So I was just thinking everybody would want to have their dedicated area. So the girl of this family has her own corner, which looks more like a princess style, and the boy of this family is really inspired by the space and universe, and he's interested in UFO. So we have a theme which is related to that on his side of the room. If there's supposed to be one area that you will decorate quite a lot, I will always encourage you to do the kids' room, because that is the space where you can be really creative and you can put quite a lot of weird items and it doesn't make it look weird. So spend your time when you will try to decorate the kids' bedroom, because that will pay off quite a lot. It will give a lot of character to the house and to the build. So you can see that on the girl's side there are some fairy lights, and on the boy's side he has the termites by his bed. I am doing some small finishing touches here, and we will move outside to finish the landscaping, which is quite important. However, this time I'm not going super crazy, and I will only decorate this area around the house, and I will leave the rest quite plain, because I already felt the entire lot is quite busy and I didn't want to clutter it too much. But here I am dividing a little plot for flowers or plants by the little rocks, and I'm also using the terrain tool. Even with simple tricks, when you're doing landscaping, such as using terrain tools, you can achieve quite a good look. I think that the terrain tool does add quite a lot of dimension to your build, so don't be afraid to use it, and you can always go back in The Sims. So if you do something you don't like, you can just revert it. But in general, I feel like it's something which is quite important, and it will add a little bit of realism to your build. Now I'm moving to the area where I converted the barn into a little garage, and I placed this another activity. This is one of my favorite items in The Sims 2 ever. This car, or this is not a car yet, but this shell of a car at this point. I always loved this since The Sims 2 came out with the free time expansion pack. I always missed that in every other game, and I know that there is a similar item in The Sims 3 which you have to buy through the Sims store. But I always loved the idea that your sim can work on their own veteran, let's say, car, repair it and paint it the way they want it and like it. Also, you probably noticed this family has a dog, and there is a little shelter for the dog by the garage. I thought about that a lot, but I feel like every proper farmhouse or homestead should have a dog and maybe a cat too. I didn't include a cat for this family that I envisioned in my head who's gonna live here, but there is a space for the dog in this build. And now I'm doing the tiny finishing touches, and I'm using the terrain tool or the paint to do the area around the roots of the trees a little bit more natural and realistic. You can see me to place some outdoor lamps in this area, and I removed one later because I thought that two were enough. So the one which is the closest to the garage will be removed off the record. And I also placed there a little grill for this family. I don't have the outdoor seating area, but I felt like the grill is quite convenient, and this one I thought looks quite nice for the farm. And now we are getting to the final look of this farm or homestead. And you can enjoy here a short footage of this family which just moved to this farm. Thank you so much, guys. If you made it so far in this video, I really appreciate all of the feedback that I'm getting from you all. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please consider to subscribe. Thank you if you will do. And I hope that I will see you in some of my other videos. Bye!